that the first suspected case of Ebola virus in the country has been recorded. That's in Kericho County. A woman who had just crossed the border to come and visit the spouse in Kericho exhibited symptoms that are consistent with Ebola, and you know, the country is in high alert following those two cases in Uganda, especially the two deaths, not even to talk about the infections in Uganda. So once these symptoms were detected, she has or was isolated, and the county government sending a statement also this morning saying that there's no cause for alarm. There's no reason to worry. It's not the first case actually of Ebola virus. He says it's just suspected. I don't know the difference anyway. So yeah, that's a breaking story into the newsroom this morning. We'll try and get you any breaking story out of the region, but they're urging caution and saying that you need to know, and if you see someone with the symptoms, you should report it to the nearest health institution around you. Well, let's begin this morning with reminding you some of the stories that made your headlines yesterday. And this story is particularly important because it's headlining the Daily Nation this morning. Furious Uhuru Kenyatta breaks ranks with rebel MPs. It was always a matter of when, not if, the president will lose his cool over bitter fallout in his backyard. And yesterday he blew off the lead in a dramatic fashion. We're going to talk about that. So President Uhuru Kenyatta, in a raw expression of anger, has once again hit out at politicians, especially those from his central Kenya backyard, engaged in the 2022 election campaign, saying he will not sit by as they undermine his leadership. In what appeared to be a thinly veiled attack on leaders allied to Deputy President William Ruto, and which he delivered in his native Kikuyu language, President Kenyatta affirmed he was still firmly in control of the presidency. NTV's political affairs reporter Ken Mijungu was at the meeting and reports that the daggers have been drawn amid rising tension and apparent cracks within the ruling party, with the president's supporters and those of his deputy pulling in different directions.
President Uhuru Kenyatta's raw anger manifested today at the annual Akorino meeting at the Kasarani Gymnasium. In an unerring dress down to MPs from his Mount Kenya backyard, the president was reading the riot act to politicians who he accuses of abdicating their responsibilities to the people. President Kenyatta, who was the chief guest at the event and who spoke in his native Kikuyu language, said some politicians from the region had chosen 2022 politics instead of heeding to his calls to shun politics.
No more than a guganadali na luga ito, na nogo dioroka guito na neguirado. Mekoreno to duleta toleta siasa, matigesi dienye de kihekiao. Matigesi dienye de kihe? Netoigua na matiko ndogamia barabara ĩrĩa ndĩthondekeire ĩrĩa ndĩrenda gũkinya na kũrĩa ndĩrenda gũtwara andũ aitũ na kũrĩa ndĩrenda kũmakinyia.
President Kenyatta, who has been quiet for some time as his deputy made inroads in the Mount Kenya region and won support from a handful of politicians and residents from the region, had some choice words for the politicians, whom he described as being driven by selfish motives in their engagement in constant politicking. Kenyatta says the same politicians hitting at him in their weekend political meetings, dubbed developmental tours, used his name to win the positions they now hold. He said he will not hesitate to bring them down, as he still was the region's supremo. President Kenyatta now wants them to go back to their core mandate, that of working for the people, using the National Government Constituency Development Fund, instead of engaging in endless political rhetoric in the company of Deputy President William Ruto.
Mundu agikorwo we mheshimiwa coka gicagi gwaku wake cukuru wikirire andu thitima na mbeca irio hetwo tiga guku guthiuruka ugitwiraga uria ukaneneha gutire kundu ugathie utari na andu aya.
He once again affirmed his presidency, insisting anybody who thought otherwise was in for a rude shock.
no umere wa Jomo no erugamirire na ni arugamirire bururi na gutina kindu gya kumakia mundu.
DP Ruto sat pretty as the president vented out his anger to politicians allied to him. Occasionally, he got translations from some who sat next to him. When it was time for Ruto to speak, he praised the president, saying he would work closely with him to deliver on their manifesto.
Wewe ulinichagua nikawa naibu yako. Mimi, Mheshimiwa Rais, I want to say I thank you very much for making me the person that I am today.
Na kama tutaenda kwa mambo ya referendum, mimi nataka rais, na hiyo ni opinion yangu, mimi naomba rais kwa ile referendum kama ni ya ukweli, yeye bado ni kijana, ni miaka 56, ajiuzulu akiwa na miaka 60. Tuongezee rais mmoja mwingine, Kenya iende mbele.
According to some politicians allied to President Uhuru Kenyatta, they do believe that these are the first steps he is making in an effort to consolidate the Mount Kenya bloc that has for some time now been considered as politically fatherless. Kennedy Mureithi, NTV at the Kasarani Gymnasium in Nairobi County.
All right, at this point, I'd like to bring my guest to speak about this briefly because we still have some stories to tell you. Junior Mulo, the ANC National Youth League chairperson, is here. Nerima Wako, executive director from Siasa Place, and Mesha Kodede, the chairperson of Volunteer Involving Organizations Kenya. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. Na Nerima, umenitupa sana. You decided not to be coming for side by anymore. You're in Japan. You are in Japan. You're traveling. You're traveling all over. I saw you in Germany again last week.
Yeah.
So you're traveling. That's why you're not coming to the show. Now let's begin this. Was the president angry or just expressing himself? Let me hear from you, Juni.
I think the president is right, and that members of parliament must understand that Uhuru Kenyatta is the president of this country and is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. One, what we need as wananchi, we need services. Politicians must realize that time has come that they need to focus in service to humanity. They must deliver on the promises of the Jubilee government, the Big Four agenda, and instead of forming outfits that are not helping anybody.
Okay.
We should not go around politicking and politics that divides this country. A divided country, you know, it will bring down the economy. A divided country will not be a good environment for business. In fact, I would always say that had it been that Uhuru became president in 2002, when Musalia was the running mate, would have had the best government ever. Because as a deputy president, you don't need to insubordinate because that is what is happening. Because I think if Ruto, the deputy president, and the team Tanga Tanga, and other teams that have formed themselves to do politics traversing the whole country, they would have actually supported 100% Big Four agenda and the agenda of the government.
Okay.
But for now, we have seen politics of division, politics that cannot bring peace, politics that cannot create employment, politics that cannot put food on the table.
Okay.
That's why we support the president. That message was specifically addressed to certain community, which of course these people have been going there. Some people are asking that they need to be paid their debts.
Okay, but this was very explicit, Junior. It was very explicit. The fact that he was speaking in Kikuyu, he wanted the message passed to Kikuyus, right? Let me bring Nerima in. And Nerima, the agreement now is that the president was angry. But why is he angry? At who?
First of all, to see our president express himself that way, he's on the edge. He's the kind of personality, we've known him long enough to know that he doesn't involve himself in matters. In fact, he keeps silent. And that's why most times we see hashtags asking, where is our president? So for him to stand up and speak up like that, he's extremely angry, one.
He was mocked out by something.
He was, and he only does that when he's on the edge, and that's how you know it's not scripted. Nobody wrote a speech about it. It's from his heart, his core, what he feels. It's exactly what he feels. And so I think we need to recognize that there's a shift politically,
Okay.
where people are feeling in their home backyards, they're feeling betrayed. Where even we cannot forget the recent election in Ugenya with Ocheng winning MP, and how if as much as Raila Odinga came to the forefront and said elections, they're winners and losers, and it's a by-election, it's a completely different election. These are things that 10 years ago would be unheard of.
Okay.
So for people and for our president to speak in his native language, in his home, to his people, he's driving a message across.
Okay.
He specifically said that I am still son of Jomo, I am still king in this neighborhood, and you need to be able to be loyal to your king. Okay. What we need to be asking is, has loyalty changed? Is it just about belonging to a particular community? Are people looking at different avenues of loyalty where they feel that they belong? And perhaps that's the politics that we should be talking about today.
Okay. Okay. And Meshach, let's talk about the anger. We are going to deal with the other issues. Is the president right to be angry?
Yes, I would simply say yes. President is right to be angry. It is in central region where recently there were issues to do with, we have not been given enough in terms of development. Development has gone elsewhere, and we are the ones who have stood behind you from zero to where you are. And now the president has a second term with only 2 budgets to end his term as a president of the country.
Actually 3.
He has 2. This one, the third one will go to election largely.
Okay.
He has 2, according to me. Okay. And so the president looks at his people at home and realizing that they have spent more time. Actually, out of every one day of 24 hours, they spend 15 hours politicking about the 2022 elections and who is going to inherit that seat. So president is supposed to be angry because you want him to deliver and you don't give him time. So the other people who opposed him, who did not even vote him, are quiet and somehow expecting him to lead the way on those development matters. But people at home who are also crying foul and saying, you have not given us enough according to what we did in terms of giving you power, are busy politicking. So he is angry. And I think he just went to pull a nganga on them. Hata wengine walikuja na matuta hapa, and I've made you the serious guys you are.
You elected because of me.
Yeah, almost saying rubbish.
All right, we're coming back to this discussion, but let's talk more about what happened yesterday. Now, before President Kenyatta's tongue lashing at the Akorino meeting at the Kasarani Stadium, or is it Kisirani? It should be.
Kasarani.
Kisirani. Kasarani. We kept Kisirani, yeah. So before that tongue lashing, Deputy President William Ruto and a number of his allies were in Elgeyo Marakwet, where they dismissed the opposition calls for President Uhuru Kenyatta to endorse former Prime Minister Raila Odinga for presidency in 2022. Now, Ruto accused ODM's Raila Odinga of rocking the Jubilee boat from within, right?
Mesikia juzi kwa wengine wanauliza endorsement ya Mheshimiwa Rais. Na nataka sababu Uhuru Kenyatta anatoka huko kwetu Kiambu, niwaambie Uhuru Kenyatta ni mngwana, he's a gentleman. Yeye sio a political conman. Si alitembea hapa Elgeyo Marakwet na bonde la Ufa akasema miaka 10 yake, akimaliza miaka 10 ya nani? Sasa wewe unajichosha unaenda kuuliza Uhuru Kenyatta endorsement ya nini?
Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta endorsed William Ruto long time ago. He has not changed his mind. His mind is in the same place, and I am speaking on his behalf. Kama wewe amekutuma kuja uniambie kwamba amekuambia.
Chama ya Jubilee ni chama ya kitaifa. Sisi ni chama ya demokrasia. Na sisi kama chama ya demokrasia tutafuata yale wanachama wa Jubilee watatuamuru. Tuende left, tutaenda left. Tuende right, tutaenda right.
And on the other side of the political divide, politicians under the Kieleweke banner and who have supported the unity deal between President Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga say those opposed to the handshake stood to lose out in the 2022 election. The leaders say the path taken by the two leaders had hope for the country's economic prospects.
Na mkiona watu wanarandaranda huko zetu bila baba yetu kusema, na baba yetu ni Uhuru, ujue hiyo ni watu wamepotea njia.
Saa hii the country is grappling na shida za high cost of living. Tunaongea mambo ya budget that is astronomically above our means. We are talking about our people being killed kule Mandera na Wajir. Tunaongea mambo ya corruption. Those are the issues inafaa watu watembee Kenya tukidiscuss. Sio wewe kutembea dunia mzima na mamilioni ya pesa na kutusi viongozi wawili.
Wale mnasikia wanakosoa handshake kwa sasa, wao ndio walikuwa wanatumia hiyo nafasi kupora na kunyanyasa Wakenya wengine.
Kwamba tunataka kuweka Kenya iwe kitu moja. We are leading by example. Tuko hapa kabila karibu 4-5 na tuko hapa kwa sababu ya ile mwongozo waliotupatia Uhuru Kenyatta.
And elsewhere, one police officer is still unaccounted for after suspected Al-Shabaab militants yesterday, that's on Saturday rather, planted an explosive device on the road in Wajir, killing 8 officers. The missing officer has been identified as the driver of the vehicle that hit the IED. One police officer who had been reported missing since on Saturday has since been found with injuries consistent with the attack. There has been a number of attacks targeting police officers in the area. And on Friday night, there was an attack on the Buji Karas Center on Thursday. A similar attack happening or resulted in the kidnapping of 3 Kenyan police reservists from the same area. Right, let's go back to the budget and the proposals presented by the Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich on Thursday continues to elicit mixed reactions from a number of Kenyans, with a majority holding the view that they were yet to feel the impact of the economic growth. Rotich, in his budget proposal, plans to raid the pockets of the mostly poor Kenyans to finance the budget and plug the deficit, even as economic experts cringe at the government's extravagant expenditure and borrowing culture. NTV's Zainab Ismail takes a look at the state of the country's economy in light of a not-so-friendly Mwananchi budget.
Kenyans have no room to loosen their already tightened belts after the government failed to offer any kind of reprieve in the cost of basic food items such as bread, unga, milk in the 2019-2020 budget.
Budget haikusaidia mwananchi yote wa kawaida kama sisi. Manake budget kama tulivyosikia, budget imekuwa ni ya kuongeza kila kitu.
I want to ask Rotich, which indicators do you use to gauge that the economy has grown by 6.3% when Kenyans are suffering?
We cannot continue taxing the poor in this country and yet expect the poor to get out of their poverty. It just sinks them deeper into poverty.
Economists believe a majority of Kenyans have been left out in the grand scheme of things as government shifts its focus on the capital-intensive development projects.
I think they'd be forgotten, quite honestly. I mean, I know it's less glamorous than building a railway line, but if more money had gone into the basics of a hospital, primary education, secondary education in the public sector, that's where we really can improve things. We're just too much into these grand projects.
In the coming financial year, the government plans to spend 2.8 trillion shillings against a deficit of 607.8 billion shillings, which means the government will have to borrow more money to plug the shortage.
And I think with our debt, we've got ourselves into a corner, but we just need to go back and renegotiate it for a longer period of time, and that's all debt, including the Chinese debt.
Despite the numerous warnings about the country's spiraling debt level, Rotich maintains the country is still not in the red.
Kenya continues to meet its debt service obligation promptly with no accumulation of debt arrears. Public debt is within sustainable levels, and the debt burden is projected to decline over the medium term as we implement the fiscal consolidation plan.
There's got to be a real, a massive, almost brutal public sector reform. I mean, when you look at government and its efficiency or non-efficiency, what it delivers and what it doesn't deliver, and what that costs, we get poor value for money.
Robert Shaw says the revenue target projection by the government is too ambitious and middle and low-income earners will bear the brunt of even tougher economic times.
Everybody is cost-cutting. They're not expanding, they're just saying, you know, we're just trying to survive. We've just been through one of the hottest, driest periods for many, many years. And that has made things worse because that's increased inflation and given us all sorts of additional expenses. So we're coming out of that. So really, you know, a lot of people have seen their cost of living rise already, and this doesn't help them now.
Zainab Ismail, NTV.
And in the meantime, ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi has criticized Treasury CS Henry Rotich's plan to raise taxes and borrow some more to finance the budget and plug the budget deficit.
Mimi sijui kama hii serikali itaweza kutekeleza hiyo budget, kwa sababu kuna pengo kubwa sana. Hata wakati niliona waziri akisoma hiyo budget, nikatazama mwili wake, body language yake, nikaona huyu jamaa hata yeye mwenyewe hajiamini. Kwa sababu kuna pengo. Hiyo budget wanasema ni trilioni 3. Kuna pengo la 700 billion. Alafu anasema hiyo atajaza hiyo pengo kwa kuzidi kukopa.
Right, an update from the judiciary that has approved about 30 Court of Appeal judges. Now, this morning, the recruitment of the Court of Appeal judges began at their headquarters at the Reinsurance Plaza, and 35 candidates are lined up for interview between today, that's the 17th, and the 1st of July. The interview schedules have been released. We will share it with you. And of course, the media has not been allowed into the interviews, but we were allowed to take pictures. We'll be bringing the pictures as soon as we have them. And of course, just to remind you, the Court of Appeal has approved a limit of 30 judges. Now, the current number of Court of Appeal judges is only 19. So that's one of the stories we're following up for you this morning. Well, let me bring back the conversation because I really enjoy discussing this. So let's go back to the politics of the day. Now, we have determined the president is angry. There is this school of thought that the fact that the deputy president, first before I go to that, that attack or that riot act that was read, a lot of people will say it was not just meant to the foot soldiers of the deputy president, but it was actually straight meant for the deputy president. Do you agree?
Of course, we look at that point, but at the same time, as I've said, that the fact that the president is lenient, it does not mean that he's weak. The fact that he's silent does not mean that he's a coward. But we have seen a situation whereby this is not the first time that he has said that. The last time he said it in Embakasi, when he said there are people moving around. That's why we came up with Team Tanga. They said that people are tangering around. And this is a deputy president who is not supporting the initiatives of the president, the Big Four agenda. The deputy president has not come out to condone corruption that has entrenched.
To condone or condemn corruption?
Condemn corruption.
Okay.
And the deputy president has not come out clearly supporting the initiatives of the government and also, condemning corruption. And that's why the president feels that, yes, I have the government, I have the deputy president. I've been talking about corruption day in, day out. I've been saying that people need to be arrested. People, we need to shun away from this act of stealing money every year, every time, every month. In fact, we have lost almost, alone in the Ministry of Water, we have lost 160 billion just with unknown projects of dam and other projects. But you see, Ruto has come out protecting and covering Waititu, protecting and covering these people who have been mentioned in this corruption war. And I believe that the message the president is simply saying that let us work together, let us focus on service delivery, let us not politic. I wonder why these people are afraid, why they are intimidated about 2022. If indeed the president is going to support you come 2022, if indeed you had an agreement that come 2022 you're going to support me as the president, why would you go around making noise each and every time? Why would you just keep quiet, just work with the president, make the president achieve Agenda 4, Big 4 agenda, make the president leave a legacy on development.
But Omola, I don't agree with you that in entirety that the deputy president has not come out to condemn corruption. I don't agree with you. I mean, he has spoken against it, and he did not support Waititu. I don't hold brief for him, but I don't just agree that the deputy president has never spoken against corruption. That's not true.
Give me an instant where...
He has spoken several times. The deputy president has spoken against corruption. He said the war on corruption has to be won. He has said that it has not, you don't have to target someone. Let's open this and let everyone be subjected to this. He's open to lifestyle audit and all. I mean, he's not just kept quiet and done other things.
To me, I see those are political gimmicks.
But he's done it. Whether they're gimmicks, you have to agree he's done it.
Yeah, we need political goodwill to fight corruption.
Mm-hmm.
And a situation where Kenyans see president working together with the deputy in terms of condemning corruption, that is where Kenyans will believe that this war is really being fought by the government. But now when the president is speaking one thing and the deputy is speaking another thing, then it means that the country is not one in terms of fighting corruption.
Okay. Narima, something about the war that, I mean, the words, were they targeting the deputy president directly, or because it was in the native language of the president, you think it was targeting his foot soldiers?
I think it's a mixture of both, because when you are targeting a team, you mainly you'll target the captain. You'll talk to the captain, but you're talking to the entire team. And I believe the fact that it was read, it was a strategy to instill authority, where you're reading something that, quite frankly, our leaders should already know. So you're doing it as a sense of, let me remind you, and let me remind you as an individual of authority to you. So it did come off as though, I believe, he was speaking to the entire team, not particularly one individual.
Okay.
Just to give them a sense of, I'm watching you, and I'm sick and tired of your behavior, and I will remind you as to why you are here, and I will remind you as to what you are doing is not considered within the law for me.
Okay.
And I think that it's interesting that he chose to read it there. I think that is very interesting, because it is a sense of power, where you choose to read it in a space where you feel it's your home ground and you will have your main support. If we were to think of it as a football game, you'd feel you have more advantage if it's a home game, where you're playing in a space that you have the people around you, the audience, in support of you. So in a sense, I think that was also to give him the sense that he is in charge, and he was showing that he is in charge.
Okay. So, Meshach, the reason why this feeling is abound is the fact that if you look at the people the deputy president works with most of the time, there's a time that I asked this question to my panel on Sidebar, and what they said, you know, Ruto's, Deputy President Ruto's support is assured in his backyard. So he doesn't need even to work with people from his backyard, Kipchumba Murkomen, Aaron Cheriot and the likes, right? But on this other side, the fact that he's taken people and legislators and leaders from the backyard of President Uhuru Kenyatta. He had Kimani Wamatangi. I no longer see him, but I see Mijungu. I see a lot of Babayao, that's the governor for Kiambu County. I see a lot of senators and members of Parliament, National Assembly from his backyard. The fact that he walks with them and the fact that Uhuru spoke in his native language, to a lot of people, that perhaps is the reason why he feels undermined. Because if I'm the president and I'm working this way, why would you be going around with the deputy president who is perceived as campaigning already for 2022?
You know, I think DP, like the instance of yesterday, found himself in a very unfamiliar place where somebody is definitely trying to discipline his family, and then you found yourself in, and so you can't come through, even though the people who are disciplined are your friends, and you feel like maybe it is unfair to them. But again, this is your friend, this is your boss, instilling discipline at home, so you have to keep quiet. And if you look at those clips, the eyes tell, the eyes of the DP tells how he felt. But then what you are saying is true. The reasoning here is these people are the ones talking about 2022 succession politics. DP goes in the name of launching a project or development. Then DP keeps off politics of 2022, but ushers in his people to talk about politics of 2022. So DP comes back and goes to the press and say, I am loyal to my boss. I am loyal to my boss whatsoever. So he keeps the same narrative. He keeps the same narrative of I'm loyal to my boss, but the action is not telling loyalty at all.
Okay.
The action is, I will always keep people from his backyard. Much as you say he is more assured of his support at his backyard, that might be, but it might also not be true. It could be taking the war to his boss, because if I am able to take your own people from your backyard to go and talk about politics in your backyard, even though I'm trying to keep off, they talk about everything, and then I come crown it saying, I am loyal to my boss. Siasa tumeweka kando, we are working. Tunataka maji, tunataka shule, tunataka all this, so that it resonates with the Big Four agenda, but in reality, the action tells opposite. This would make President very angry.
The fact that he mentioned the name Jomo, and the fact that he says that, I will go to every place that these people have been. What does that tell you, Nerima? He wants to undo something that has been done?
He's not undoing. For me, I believe that he was putting a stamp on it, because we understand that in that locality, Jomo is extremely important. Founding father of the whole country, but there's a particular passionate linking toward it. There's a sense of pride, and you cannot deny that. So for him to mention it over again, it's almost like he's igniting it in his people to remember. Remember where we've come from, remember what we did to get here, and remember where we're going. So I think that's why he mentioned it, and saying that he is the rightful authority right now for where I stand. And that's the sense of, it's almost symbolic of religion, to where when you use your father's approval, like if we were to talk about it with the Bible, Jesus using his authority, that it's God who has brought him here and he is the Son of God. So you are to follow him because he is divine. So it's almost religious in an aspect, to where he's reminding his people that I am the chosen leader, I am the son of that who was chosen, that created this very country.
Okay, okay. Omolo, you share the same sentiment?
Yeah, of course. Just as you said, even Jesus whipped the members of the church because they were doing business. They went contrary to the expectations and the law of Jesus Christ. Because what we want to see as Kenyans, we want to see these people moving around, not only launching projects, but also advancing the agenda of the Jubilee government. Creation of 800,000 jobs to the young people. Opening offices, youth fund offices to those constituencies. Advancing the CDF manifesto, another youth fund manifesto, so that people can put food on the table. But what is happening, I think Ruto has realized that he's not going to get support from his boss, or maybe those who gave him that assurance. And that's why maybe he's moving around, because what he wants to achieve in 2022, he wants to get the highest members of parliament, senators, MPs, and MCAs, so that maybe come 2022 you'll be a very powerful opposition leader. Because maybe that is where there's that itch, and also there's that intimidation. Because why would they do that if you are assured of the support of the president?
Can I think the president was a bit consistent in his message yesterday. I will go to all these places these people have gone. And above that, he mentioned categorically that you think you're so famous now, and you think you're going to be so powerful. Meaning, you are going around, and because you are trying to convince people here and there, you now, and I'm quiet, you now think you're more popular in Central Province than I am, or in Mount Kenya region than I will go back to that same place you have gone to, and you will know that I'm still more popular than you.
Okay. In connection with what you're saying, there's a quote here by the Daily Nation. They should know that it's not they who made me the president.
Yes.
In fact, I'm the one who made them get elected.
Walikuja na matuta. I'm the one who made them.
Okay, and Nerima, talk to me about this. It was always a matter of when, right?
Yes.
Not if. Which means this was going to happen somehow.
Yes.
Somehow it was going to happen. Eh?
Yeah.
The president will lose his cool over a bit of fallout in his backyard. And yesterday, he blew off the lead in a dramatic fashion. So this is something that has been in the works. But what captures my attention is the picture and how the deputy president was calm, Nerima.
He's always calm. I always find it surprising every time when we talk about the deputy president. We're always surprised with his reactions. He's a strategist. He knows how to be in uncomfortable situations and not lose his cool. That's his tactic. When we even see his aide men going around and campaigning for him, and him, just as you mentioned, going to the podium and not saying anything similar, but talking about the development agenda.
So
that's his skill. That's his skill. So I think it's gifted. I think that it's something that he utilizes, but also it's a strength. Because when you react too quickly, when you react in anger, that's where you make the greatest mistakes. So it's easy to just remain calm, analyze the situation, and then come up with a strategy next. And that's something that our deputy president is very good at. He's very good at strategy.
On the contrary, the president is not so good at that. I'll take you to the National Prayer Day, right? You saw what happened with the exportation of Prime Minister. Look at the reaction the president had right then. You know? And it's never been defined who he meant, the three. And I not want you to define your three, probably it's you. He wants to add
that was
Britain.
Obvious. Yeah? That was obvious.
But what does that tell of the way the president picks the cue and reacts?
I think that's why people identify a lot with our president. You know, when you, as much as we're frustrated with how the country is being run, the amount of debt, when you talk to a Kenyan citizen, even just walking down here in town and talk about the issues, they'll say things are tough and all that. And then they'll be like, president, he can do better. But you know, he's a good person, but he just doesn't know how to lead. You know, Kenyans just feel connected to him because he just has this sense of being real. And I think that's why there's so many memes around him with his face, because you cannot deny. When he's shocked, you will see it in his face. When he's happy,
you'll see it right away.
He just wears his emotions on his face and on his sleeve. And I think that's something that he has grown up with. It's his part of his personality. It's the way he is. And so it's one of those things where I believe that he is genuine, and it's very difficult for him to sit down and strategize. He's never been that kind of individual. He's never been, I say, the manipulative, the one who always has that card under his
the table.
sleeve.
It's always on top of the table. You can always say it. But was that planned? Omolo, was that planned? Do you think the president knew, when I go to this forum, this is it?
No.
Or is part by the moment?
He never knew. Actually, to me, I took it as a comedy. Because
really?
Really? Yeah, of course. Because, you know, nowadays we are used to such comedies. Because I think Uhuru is a selfless person. He's a person who believes in service to humanity. And it's come out clearly that he empathizes by what is happening in Kenyans today. And that's why he brought Raila on board. And after the handshake, he realized that there's a need for us to work together and bring this country together so that we can do business, so that we can help Kenyans. But you see now, with such kind of statement, when you want to import, telling the Germans, the UK people that you want to give them prime minister, and specifically refer to a person, you know, that is a comedy, because I think even Raila himself did not take it seriously. So as Kenyans, we take it as comedy and we leave it at that, because there's nothing much about it. So I think Ruto is just paranoid about the current unity between Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, and he believes that maybe Raila has been put there to checkmate him, so that whatever...
Put by who?
The system, or the deep state. We have the deep state or the system, whatever you call them. And you know, that is a political strategy. Every year, you must have a political strategy. And I believe, if you look at the former vice presidents, you look at Kalonzo Musyoka in 2013. Kalonzo was a vice president who was loyal. He was working. He was going to different countries, bringing investors in this country. If you look at the Moise regime, where the president had the opportunity even to fire the deputy president. And that's why people have even coming up with proposal to amend the constitution so that we can give the president the power to fire the deputy president. I think even the president today, Uhuru Kenyatta, would have fired Ruto immediately.
Really?
Yes, of course.
So.
Really?
He's not
They
fired
joined the
anybody.
hip.
No.
Okay.
He might not want to, but let's look at how these two gentlemen joined politics. You would realize that Ruto has learned from many people. He has worked with Raila, he worked with Moi, he has worked with different kind of people, including Kibaki, during his term as the president. So Ruto is much of a cocktail politician. But Uhuru has learned from no one except Baba Moi, and he joined politics at a later age compared to when Ruto joined politics. So this is why he has not, it's not like DP Ruto does not get angry. He does, and probably in the boardrooms and those places where he meets his team. But because he joined politics a long time, he has been able to learn how to behave out there and how to put politics for what people want to see and what you are supposed to really feel in reality. But Uhuru did not separate where politics ended and where him as human being started. When he joined, and that was it. And when he joined, Baba Moi was also going out. So he did not have a lot of time to actually, again, learn from even Moi himself. So Ruto has a bit of Moi in him, has a bit of Raila in him, has a bit of every other person. He has virtually worked with almost everyone in politics now and before. So that's what makes him a little bit cool, even though deep inside you can see he's burning.
He's burning.
Yeah.
It's just human to burn. Yeah. I'd like to read your statement attributed to the Deputy President that he said, the way you trust the Akorino Church, I also believe that you trust me to be your deputy. I'm here today because you gave me a chance out of a million of Kenyans, to which I'm grateful. Thank you for making me the person that I am today. Playing by the gallery or just out of the heart speech?
If I may say, that might have been before he knew what the president was going to say.
What was coming.
Yeah. So you can't really tell if he was playing by the gallery, because I am not sure what president was saying had been shared by anybody else. Because everybody expected president was going to speak like someone speaking to the nation. But all of a sudden, president made that meeting a home meeting, where we need to speak our language at home. So we assume that we were not there, we didn't hear anything. He was talking to his sons and daughters at home. So the DP found himself, like I say, in a very unfamiliar place. And what he was saying, I can't really make of it like playing to the gallery, because he was not aware of what was going to be said after that. And now this threw every mud on his face, because you were so nice. And then the person speaking next after you makes it just too bad. Like,
but the fact that Nerima, the deputy president, knows what to say and where, like that was touching to the heart of the Mount Kenya.
Yes.
You know, when he spoke like that, means you gave this guy who's your son, trusted me with this and all, right?
Yeah, And back to it being strategy, because obviously, even if it was before or after, and he might not have understood what was said, he knows that the president would not say anything negative to his people when he's at home. So that's why he did the connection. He connected himself to the people that were being spoken to.
But
and that's why he said that.
he was also leading Uhuru to what Uhuru should say. You know what, people who talk to you and giving you thoughts.
Ideas. As they speak, you can say.
So he was trying to give Uhuru ideas of endorsing him. So he endorsed himself before the people of Mount Kenya, that you trusted me out of millions of Kenyans. So that Mount Kenya would say, ouch, that is really good. These are two good friends. Kumbe, he is the next after our president, because our president trusted him
I'll talk about endorsement in the next hour.
And again, he wanted to play a good boy. Because you see, the meeting was not just attended by Corino only. It also brought on board all MCAs and members of parliament from Central. So he saw this as a platform. We call it a political capital, where he wanted to resonate well with these people. He wanted to tell these people that I respect your boss. I work closely with your boss, and I'm with him in everything that is happening in this country. But little did he know that the president wanted to use, president had seen that this is the opportunity to tell my people the truth, what I feel that comes from my heart, that I feel offended by what you guys are doing, going around, moving across the country, not focusing on my agenda, but focusing on 2022. Politics needs to be set aside. We need to focus on development. And I think he realized that he's strange there, and he didn't expect. He was just setting pace for president to speak what people needed to hear.
Yeah, that's the only thing he could have said, really. Because you can't enter someone's house and start insulting them. Okay. So that's the only option he had.
So from the face of it, you're working together, but behind the curtains, you're working to undermine someone. So it must have been, I'm still on this, it must have been very awkward, because the whole time the president spoke, I am sure the deputy president in the colloquial language was floating. Throughout the speech, he was floating. So I'm imagining when he sits and now he has to bring a translator. Mdosi alikuwa anasema nini? And then it hits him. This is it. But of course he could read the anger from the president's tone and expression and all, right?
Yeah.
You look at how the president was talking and even lifted the microphone. He was very angry, actually. You know,
passionate
when
about
he
it.
Sat down, maybe Ruto was telling him, boss, but you see, he was just delivering the message. He was just telling these people that I am tired. Let us stop politics. Let us focus on development. Let us fight corruption. You guys help me achieve my legacy. Let me achieve my dream. I've served for 2 terms, and I want to leave this country a better place. So whoever comes in, let us not discuss it now. Let us wait for the right time to endorse whoever will become the president. And I believe that right now Kenya is not ripe for serious politics. We are just three years away from now. And you see, after coming from a divisive politics in 2017, the good thing that these people can do is now to settle and leave Kenyans to focus on what can help them put food on the table.
But again, Ken, I can't really say that DP was not aware of what the president was saying, because DP is a smart guy that I know he is. He could tell from the body language, because if you have a whole stadium filled with members of the community or the church, and you have a number of leaders who accompanied them, especially those who are from Mount Kenya backyard, and the president is speaking, and the only people cheering are the masses, but the leaders who have been having your campaign on and off every day are not cheering. Any smart guy would tell that my boss is not speaking something that is good for us as Team Tanga Tanga. He could tell from there before even translations
could tell from the face.
Because you could see in Ndindi Nyoro, you could see Kimani Ichung'wah,
yes, you could see
if you are the DP, and realize the way they look at the president and they understand the language, even though the masses are cheering, I am in deep problem here. I don't think he went back home to look for the translator. He knew it from there.
In a few minutes, let's just discuss this. That message was also punctuated by the support for the unity deal between him and Raila Odinga.
Yes.
That was also significant at the place. This is
Yes.
just to prepare the stage, because the next hour I want to talk about what happened in Kisumu at the burial of the mother of Peter Nyang', right?
Yeah.
So if you looked at the speech wholesome, there was that aspect of you need to support what I'm doing with Raila Odinga, because this is what I intend to leave for this country when I exit, right?
Yeah.
In fact, what they're doing with the Raila Odinga after the handshake, I think I will talk from the point of, my party. As much as there was a handshake, which actually has brought tranquility and peace, which is a good environment for investors and also development of this country, as much as it is not structured, as much as there's no serious agenda set for Kenyans, I think there was this called Building Bridges, which has been moving around collecting views from Kenyans. But from the sources that we've had is that Kenyans are specifically asking specific questions. One, on corruption. Two, on the cost of living, And the president is just giving a message that, I tried my level best. I went down as a president of the Republic of Kenya. I shook hands with the person who called himself the people's president, and we came together. What I needed is, I thought that we were going to create peace so that we develop and achieve what we had promised Kenyans. But now, what is coming in, that I thought had left politics aside, you guys are coming in, reviving the politics of division. You are attacking Raila directly. You are attacking other people who are supposed to help me achieve all these dreams. And that is why he's trying to support this initiative, that handshake, because he needs an environment that will enable Kenyans to do business. A divided nation will bring down the economy. As I've said, we are currently having a lot of debts, a lot of borrowings that have currently demoralized Kenyans, and actually has denied us, put us in a bad picture with international relations. Because currently what we need to do, from the budget that was read, you've realized that it is going to put a lot of emphasis on VAT, which now will increase the cost of living, and a lot of prices will rise on the basic goods. So Kenyans right now, I think a paradigm shift is coming in, and Kenyans believe, and they want a leader who will now present their views, a leader who will focus on how best they can work together and build this nation.
Okay. Any comment on that unity deal? Or we should take a break?
I think basically the president has, again, been consistent about their handshake thing. From the first time after the handshake, he went to parliament. All other forums he has been to, speaking to the public, he has mentioned that.
Actually, in parliament, he said, we are not going back on this.
Exactly.
We're not going back on this.
Yeah, so in every forum, he has made it known to Kenyans that our handshake is here to stay. And including yesterday, when he was talking about the path I have charted for my people, he was basically talking about something that is happening and will continue happening going forward. He means it, and if anything will change, we will see. But for now, people can still trust that that is what he means.
Okay. Yeah. And he said, now I'm back into politics. All right. Unless you have a comment, I'd like to take a break. When we come back, I have several things I want to talk about. But just to mention, Nerima, the fact that Sonko mentioned it again, I know we're discussing in the next hour, that the president is too young. He mentioned this at JKL some time ago. He's mentioned it in the show here. And also, Francis Atwoli has mentioned this. And I think the referendum proponents have also mentioned something in terms of the structure of the government after the referendum, right? Does it bother you that they keep on bringing this, or they're speaking about someone's reflecting or mirroring someone's thoughts?
It does bother me because we are basing our decisions on age, yet there's a lot of ageism in this country. We're saying that our president is currently too young to retire, but then we don't encourage young people to enter powerful leaderships because they're young. we're very quick to tell young people they're too young to enter particular positions, yet we're encouraging somebody to remain in power because he's too young to retire. I think we should question what we say as a people. It seems it's for particular individuals it's fair, but for others not so much. And I'm saying that in a sense where if we were to talk about our president being young to retire, that's great. But I feel we do not encourage young people to enter positions of power young.
Okay.
So we are actually contradicting ourselves.
How do you say that Amolo Jr. is the National League chairman for the Amani National Congress? How would you say that?
That I can enter, because even when we talk about political parties, yes. I can even mention how particular youth wings do not even sit in NEC.
Really?
Or do not even have power in executive
it's
committees.
A name. It's just a name.
Just, yeah.
It's just actually, you should ask me.
It's not a name. It's practical. I see him moving a lot with Musalia Mudavadi, the party leader.
I think it's very powerful. It's real power. He's on national TV.
Actually, I'm the most active and powerful youth leader in this country.
Okay. That's arguable, right?
So this is why I don't go for these youth party things. Because they really mean big title, but very little power.
Yeah.
Because
I'm shocked
what
he doesn't
exactly
sit
can
on
you execute, even as a secretary
you
general?
cannot execute anything.
Actually,
Sifuna is really young. I think under 40.
Yeah.
Look, SG of majority party in the country.
You know how Sifuna got that position?
Yeah.
Yeah,
of course.
It's not that it was, we believe in you as a party, we'll elect you as a... nothing like that.
Really?
Nothing like that.
Okay, great.
So,
let's take a break. We're coming back with that discussion because it's a big discussion in the country and perhaps something that might be a reality, you know. If President Uhuru himself has said, I am not interested, I haven't spoken, you haven't heard it from me, that I want power after this, right? So let's take a break. When we come back, we want to discuss that endorsement question. Was it time for President Uhuru Kenyatta to endorse his deputy at that meeting? And what was that happened in Homa Bay, or in Kisumu County last week, the burial of the governor for Kisumu, Peter Nyanyongo? What is that happened, that call? Right, when we come back, we discuss that, plus we still have a lot. Stay with us. flu spot. If you think someone has the symptoms, please Google and find the symptoms, diarrhea, high fever, and all. Just report it to the nearest health institution. And the fact that our neighboring country of Busia has reported cases of Ebola and 2 actual deaths, including one of a woman who was about 50-something, 53 years old, then it calls on everyone to be vigilant, and that's the reason why the country has been put on high alert from last week. Right, back to studio, I have Omulo Jr., who is the ANC National Youth League chairperson. He says the most powerful position of the youth in the country. I'm not contesting that. I have Nerima Wako, Executive Director, Siasa Place, and Meshak Odede, the chairperson from the Volunteer Involving Organization. They're all here to help us discuss the politics of the day. But first, before I speak to them, because I want to speak about endorsement and the fact that there are leaders in this country who think President Uhuru Kenyatta is still young and should not leave. I'm wondering if he's young, how old I am. Let's speak now to Salim Odeng. Salim Odeng is a regular contributor in this program, and also we sometimes host him, and he speaks a lot about political matters in the country. Good morning, Salim.
Good morning, Ken Mijungu.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
All right. Yesterday, I bet you what was happening with that summit or conference or meeting with Akorino, and the president was visibly angry. I want you to try and put what happened yesterday to perspective. What happened really?
Yeah, actually, Mijungu, if you followed very carefully, and actually taking from the kind of interview that I had with Okukusa previously,
yes,
I indicated that there is need for president to tame the deputy president, because in a way they have agreed as the duo that they want to deliver on the legacy promises that they made to the country and their projects that they are implementing across the country. On one side, the deputy president has told that line. He is busy campaigning for 2022. And in the spirit of building bridges initiative, and in the spirit of a cohesion and a kind of a smooth running of the nation, that is not moving well with the same spirit. So I think what the president was doing, and again taking cue from what I said, that the president is unable currently to sack the deputy president. The constitution does not allow him to do away with the deputy president. Were we to have the previous constitution, what Uhuru Kenyatta would have done yesterday was to fire Ruto and appoint a new deputy president. But the constitution does not allow him. So the only thing he can do is now to read that riot act to him, to tell him that I have talked about this, that you tone down on political rhetorics, so that we concentrate on delivering to the people of Kenya. But in the event that you are not listening and you are continuing with this kind of politics that in a way is equally divisive and preempting the 2022 election, then the only thing I can do is that I have to tell you openly that I'm watching and I'm really concerned, deeply concerned as the president. So I think Uhuru was equally doing that yesterday so that Ruto and his team understand that enough is enough. I think I've had this talk with you for so long, and if you're not listening, be aware that I'm following. And I will hit back at the right time.
Okay. All right. The fact that you say that tells me that you have the feeling that the president is frustrated by the deputy, or the fact that the deputy and his foot soldiers are going around the country campaigning. Do you think from the tone, the voice, the expression, he's really frustrated?
Yeah, you know, just by virtue that I've said that if you work with somebody, you are in a marriage that is forced. A marriage that, okay, it was not forced initially. You agree to enter into a marriage. And later on, that marriage seems to be failing, but you do not have power to to move away from your partner. You have to stick together, come what may. Then you feel frustrated, because I'm saying the Constitution do not give the president power to do away with Ruto.
Okay.
Then he must be frustrated, because in a way the president wants to move this country forward in the spirit of the handshake, so that we move forward. If elections will be there in 2022, we'll conduct elections. Him as the president, and he said that he is not interested in power.
Okay.
Of course, even if he was interested, the Constitution will not allow him to run again. But then he would want to leave a legacy. He would want to leave a coherent and cohesive country, a country that is moving together, that has a vision, that knows the focus where they are heading to.
Okay.
So in the event the deputy president and the team Tangatanga are not listening to this, I think the president, from the tone and even from the manner of speech, the president looked more frustrated. especially knowing that he couldn't do anything to do away with the deputy president.
Okay, I want to take you back to 2017. One of the last campaigns that the Jubilee team had was in the Rift Valley. And during that campaign, the president spoke to the Rift Valley in general and said that by 8:30 p.m. Yule Jamaa Kitendawili ameenda nyumbani and you have voted and we are back to State House. And let me finish my 5 and then when I'm done, huyu Ruto achukue. And yesterday, one of the things that the deputy president said before the president spoke, I'll read it to you. It's in the Daily Nation. He said that the way you trust the Akorino Church, I also believe that you trust me to be your deputy. I'm here today because you gave me a chance out of millions of Kenyans, to which I'm grateful. Thank you for making me the person that I am today. Thank you for making me the person that I am today. I want you to underline that as you comment. Yes.
I think the constant reminder by the deputy president to the president of what they agreed before. Of course, it is it's in public domain that during their campaign, the president in several locations said that nitafanya yangu 10, alafu ndugu William atafanya yake 10. So that's in public domain. But the moment that the deputy president wants to constantly remind the president, in itself, it appears like he is doubting. He's not confident that the president is able to keep that promise. In any case, that was the promise between the president and the deputy president. It was not a guarantee between the president or the deputy president with other people or any other given community to vote for him.
Okay.
Because votes cannot be transferred. Even if they were to be transferred, in some cases, it is the community that gives you guidance. We are all aware that in 2007, William Ruto was not supposed to support Raila Odinga, but his community of Kalenjin forced him in a way that they twisted him to support Raila Odinga. So there are circumstances where the community itself would push a leader towards a given direction. So my worry is this constant reminding, the reminder by William Ruto to Uhuru Kenyatta of what he promised, what is in public domain. If I were him, I would keep quiet, nichape kazi with the president. When the time comes, I will tell Mr. President, this is what we agreed. And the president is a gentleman enough to keep his promise. But if you keep on reminding him, it means that you are doubting his ability to keep a promise.
Okay.
And that is a legitimacy and a credibility question. The president is not credible enough to keep his promise.
All right.
I think if it is repeated so much, it can be repeated to his irritation.
All right.
The president's irritation.
All right. And finally for you, Salim, the deputy president has made this very clearly. No one, no community owes me anything. Yes, he said that several times.
But you see, when he says that, to me, I just, because I want us to look at what he says when he goes to Central. And when he meets the people from Central. And even the people, his foot soldiers.
Okay.
Sometimes you don't need to look for the dog owner. Sometimes you just need to look at the dog, identify the dog, and if you see the dog barking at you, you know that the owner is actually the one who is cheering the dog to go ahead and bark at you.
Okay.
So the people from Central Kenya who are backing Ruto, what are they saying? And Ruto has not stopped them. They're saying that we have a debt, we have to pay that debt. And initially I'd also say that Ruto is the one who is messing up his own chances, because he started by antagonizing both his boss and Raila Odinga. And I had said this severally, antagonizing them by saying that those are part of dynasties, that him is not a dynasty, and yet he's working with Uhuru Kenyatta, and you're calling him a dynasty. And they're saying time is now right for people who are hustlers to ascend to power. And even if you look at those people, they're not dynasty per se. Raila Odinga made his own way to power. Uhuru Kenyatta contested, lost. He really struggled his way up until he got where he is now. He didn't inherit anything from Kenyatta. That when Kenyatta died, Uhuru became the president, or when Jaramogi died, Raila has not even contested in Bondo. Raila had never inherited anything from Jaramogi, politically speaking. So when he started that debate, that was a very antagonistic kind of debate that puts him pits him against the president and Raila Odinga. Okay. And if you do that politically, then you are setting up yourself to be attacked. And that's now the fate that has befallen him.
All right, Salim Odeny, always a pleasure. Thank you very much, Salim Odeny, contributing from...
Nobody owes him, but the underlining tone behind that is that he feels the people from Central Kenya owe him something for making Uhuru Kenyatta the president. And I think Uhuru Kenyatta addressed that himself yesterday.
Yes.
That you, the people, you are the ones who made me the president, nobody else. I think it was in response to what Ruto says, or what he lives and said. but still we understand it from his comment.
Okay. Salim, thank you very much. Asante sana, Erokamano from Kisumu. All right, that's Salim Odei. Do you share the sentiments just before we go to the endorsement thing? Let me begin with Omulo.
Yes, I think he's just said what I said. If Uhuru got that opportunity to fire Ruto, he would have done it. But because the Constitution does not allow, maybe it is going to be very hard. But what we need to know is that a time has come when the Kenyan people, because we must talk for the people, that we are saying that so far, we believe that the Jubilee government has failed. We have the burden of the huge debt in history, in post-independence history in this country. We are struggling with huge corruption. People are stealing money here and there. There are no job opportunities. And Uhuru Kenyatta wants to leave a legacy. And he has realized that as much as he wants to leave a legacy, people are still traversing this country. People who are supposed to help him fight corruption, people who are supposed to help him attain this legacy are not interested in his quest to achieve his legacy. And that is why he's so angry. And I believe what he's saying, that Ruto needs to be tamed. And all the Tanga team, in fact, it's not even Tanga. I still even believe that there's this even women outfit that is called Embrace. There's another one that was currently, last week were in Malindi, that is opposing another Embrace. So you find that the intention of this outfit is not to help, help Uhuru Kenyatta. They are there to do politics. And that's what we are opposing, and we support what Uhuru did. And we need also to caution these politicians that let them go back to their community, let them go back to their constituencies, let them provide services, let them help the people, let them discuss the budget. In fact, before this budget is passed by the parliament, let them scrutinize this budget.
Yeah,
so that
their budget Kamkunji is beginning today, right?
Yes, let them, that is what they need to focus on.
Okay.
Let them discuss what is important for this country.
Okay.
There's something I would want to something I would want to say. When the president when the deputy president says, "Thank you for making me who I am," I was telling Nerima, who is he? Because that would also be rhetoric. If I am too bad, still thank you for making me this bad I am.
Okay.
Because maybe you taught me all this.
No, I think he was explicit. He said, out of millions of Kenyans, you chose me to be the deputy president. So it was about him being the deputy president, not anything else.
That is okay. That is okay. But then let me go back to that. If deputy president is going around carrying someone like Honorable Kimani Mijungu on his bandwagon, campaigning for 2022, and talking about how the DP has brought development, because he goes in the name of launching development projects. And this is a chairman of the budget committee, who we all know this new constitution from 2010 has given parliament opportunity to do the budget. The cabinet secretary only comes to read and talk about the measures of how we are going to raise the revenue for the budget that was made by parliament, which definitely has everything to do with the budget committee. So the chairman of the budget committee is in the bandwagon of a deputy president, saying they are launching Maendeleo project all over, brought by the DP. Honestly, if you were president, wouldn't that mean something to you? Wouldn't that mean that this guy is actually lying to my people in my backyard every time that he is the Maendeleo guy? When I know this has been done by the government, the parliament of Kenya and government in general, which I lead. Because remember it, I will take you back, it all came from the time Honorable Moses Kuria and the rest came out to say, Central, we have not seen Maendeleo. We vote, but Maendeleo is taken elsewhere. You need to be serious. Then Moses Kuria hibernated behind some other things and went another way.
He took his own party,
left the other. He took his own party and left, and he's now looking for presidency. Now left the likes of, because they were with the likes of Honorable Ndinti Nyoro, the Honorable Kimani Mijungu in that bandwagon before. But now he has left them. So this thing continues, but Honorable Kuria is in between. Kieleweka and Tangatanga, some people call Kieletanga. they are neither here nor there. So the president is saying simply to those people in one word, you either go back and work so that people know the government of Uhuru Kenyatta is delivering. The whole message you are taking to my backyard saying, the guy for Maendeleo, it is him who comes with Maendeleo, no one else. The man who is your son has forgotten you. The Maendeleo guy is this other guy. And so when we look at the possibility of the president getting a little bit frustrated, it is there because the Constitution as it is will never allow, and some people have actually talked about this in some quarters. Even the DP himself have mentioned at some point that I was elected alongside. You know, I don't know if you had that, but he said it someday, that I was elected alongside President Uhuru Kenyatta. So I'm nobody's appointee. So that means it works for the president. What I don't know, Ken, is whether the meeting at Elgeyo Marakwet was happening before the meeting in Kasarani. Because
it was before.
Because if it was happening before the meeting in Kasarani, and trust me, the president had already seen everything that was said in Marakwet. And so you go with your team and say 1, 2, 3, like what I see Senator Murkomen say. He is the one who said here, and Mijungu and the rest. He said, akimaliza yake kumi, the DP will pick, amaliza yake kumi. They were talking about that in Marakwet. Then all of a sudden fly, join the president, sit pretty, and say, we are loyal. No politics of 2020.
No one will believe you.
The president came out guns blazing.
Okay, Narima?
I think that we all agreed that the president was giving a warning. I think that we all know that he is angry about the whole situation right now. And as far as him not really having the powers to fire the deputy president, I don't know if he had those powers if he would, because I feel that our president had many instances, including cabinet secretaries, which he appointed to fire. But we're still waiting on that due to corruption charges. So I don't think he has the personality to fire individuals. The only
but he did fire Rachid Echesa.
And then we don't even know where that story went. We don't, but you know, also with Echesa, it can't be linked to political. Like, we cannot even go into that subject matter. You know, it still can, because he can still be considered part of a particular team, which now they will start saying that they are being targeted.
No, he decamped last week, but won. He's now with the ANC.
You see?
Decamped, yes.
Yeah,
he decamped officially and supported Musalia Mudavadi. I think he's been out of the country for a while. Yes, but at least that's an example of someone the president fired.
Yes.
I think the reason why the president has not fired this CSS, because I think there's a lot of blackmail in this marriage. I came with my people, you appointed my people. Before you fire them, let us discuss. Because maybe there's some political influences that come with it. So there's a lot of blackmail, to the extent that the president is between a rock and a hard place. Okay. That is what is happening.
Okay.
You can still say that if it was he was to fire his DP. I mean, you can still use the same excuse. Then that means that we cannot fire. Like.
I think the DP is more of the fact that it's a constitutional office. They're joined at the hip. They're elected together.
Yeah.
So the president has 7 million votes. The DP has 7 million votes. You cannot separate it. But ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to discuss what happened in Kisumu over the weekend. And this is also interesting. I like to play the story we did. But a lot of people think that the leaders from that section of the country were asking the president indirectly and some directly to endorse Raila Odinga. They were becoming tactical with it. And the fact that the president has also been very solid about the handshake, dismissing anyone who wants to undermine it, and all that, it also tells of a particular thinking that the only reason you're working with Raila, because right now there is Jubilee A and Jubilee B, and Jubilee B, whether they deny it or not, I've had leaders here have denied the existence of A and B. But there is a split, and we could even see it yesterday. So before we discuss that, let's watch this.
ODM leader Raila Odinga on Friday played the host to President Uhuru Kenyatta in Kisumu County. They had both attended the burial ceremony of Kisumu Governor Anyang' Nyong'o's mother, Dorcas Wino Nyong'o, in Rata Village, semi-constituency. The head of state once again maintained that he is determined to take the bull by its horns on matters fighting corruption, as Raila stated that corruption has brought shame to the nation.
Tukasema hatuwezi kubadilisha maisha ya Wakenya wetu kama tutaendelea na mambo ya ufisadi katika taifa letu la Kenya. Na tukasema tukifaulu na mambo hayo matatu, Kenya hii itabadilika. Tutaweza sasa kuwa na afya kwa watu wetu. Tunaweza kuhakikisha ya kwamba uchumi umepanuka na vijana wetu wameweza kupata kazi.
Lakini haiwezi kufanyika kama wezi ya mali ya umma imefika kiemu ambayo imefika katika Kenya hii. Kenya inacheza kwenye Super League ya ufisadi.
ODM chairman John Mbadi and Siaya Senator James Orengo asked the president to declare Raila Odinga his preferred successor, but the president instead cautioned against early politicking over the 2022 succession, asking leaders to focus on delivering pledges.
Just go back and think about it and sleep over it. That when you are living, we pray that God gives you life, gives you strength and energy. Please pray that you leave somebody in office who is going to continue with the fight against corruption. Don't leave a person who is going to reverse all the gains that you have started.
So I hope and trust that you and Raila Amolo Odinga will be guided towards giving us a new dispensation, including the referendum.
We don't need to repeat them. So my plea, as my mother goes to heaven, to tell Jesus she's left a referendum behind. Bwana Yesu asifiwe.
The time.
All right, we just faded it, but that's the gist. All of them wanted President Uhuru Kenyatta to endorse Raila Odinga, and straight over the weekend, we saw the reactions at that call. But I want your thoughts on this, the fact that they used the backyard, just the same thing that you were talking about, Ruto using that platform to ask President Uhuru Kenyatta to go explicit and endorse him, and relate the two. Let me begin with Mishan.
I think it is wrong. Definitely, it was not the right forum to even talk about that, number one. Number two, the people who are supporting Honorable Raila have always said they want to give opportunity for the president to deliver to the nation. So they definitely know, any smart person would know that whatever it is that we are going to ask will definitely attract reaction from elsewhere in other parts of the country. And it will end up in the same politics we are saying people should stop. So for me, whether it was excitement from our party leaders like Honorable James Orengo and Mbadi, I don't think it was right.
I didn't know you're in ODM. You didn't know? I didn't know you're in ODM. At least you've declared it. This guy is in ODM. He was hiding. Yes, he was hiding.
Why hide?
Oh, so you're in ODM. All right.
I have been in ODM.
ODM, okay.
Yes.
All right.
Nerima, you are scared.
Interesting. No, not scared. It just makes me think about things differently.
Differently now that when you hear him speak, right? Because now we know. So, Nerima, same platform, different audience, but they had that opportunity to drive their agenda.
Yeah, and I think that the president made a wise move by not continuing the conversation, because it would go against everything he's been saying that the other team should not be doing. And I believe that it shows clearly that we are already campaigning for 2022. It's not now one-sided. It has been looking like it has been one particular side that has been aggressive about it, But now that we can say that now we're seeing another side picking up the conversation and saying that this is the opportune time to be able to push this agenda. It's very difficult to say that the president would be in Kisumu soon. I don't think that there will be another kind of opportunity. Funerals, frankly, unfortunately, are the places where deep politics is spoken, because now you have everyone attending and wanting to be there. And now what they've done is instill that conversation now in the deep grassroots community for people to just sort of think about, and it's going to be now in people's conversations going forward. They have done what they wanted to do.
And probably they've achieved it, because then the discussion, they leave Seme village and the discussion is, umlisikia, rice.
I think there's nothing big there. Those are comedies. Those are political theatrics. Those are political theatrics meant to please Raila Odinga. Because you remember, Badi is looking for governorship. Nyang' Nyong'o.
Has he declared?
These people want.
Has Badi declared?
Yes, of course. These people want to remain relevant in Nyanza politics. And the only way is to tell Uhuru to support Raila, so that they are seen in that audience that they are standing with Raila and they are always supporting Raila. A time is long gone when Raila used to carry people's hand and say that you are endorsed and you become a governor. People have changed. You saw what happened in Uganda. People change. People nowadays electing people based on development record and what they believe in. And if we are talking about endorsement, the only person who should be endorsed, and I can say this without contradiction, is Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. The reason is, during Moi's era, Mudavadi, when Moi was almost impeached, Mudavadi came in and he brought the economy to almost 7%. He came up with the KRA, gave people PIN number, and we collected the highest revenue. During Raila's time, Musalia Mudavadi helped him build ODM, and he made him to be the candidate that people wanted to become. During Uhuru Ruto, the ICC saga, they came to Musalia Mudavadi for the rescue, and they even wanted to endorse him. They said, you are the only person who can help us. You are the only person who can lead this country. And he's a selfless leader who has stood with all these leaders. He's not that aggressive. He's not so much personal on these issues of politics. That's why if we are to endorse
you're conveniently forgetting some parts.
Of course. But now, if we are talking about endorsement, the only person who should be endorsed
is your party leader.
Is my party leader, His Excellency Musalia Mudavadi.
I know you will not say otherwise.
I don't even know. I don't even know if we should
be discussing endorsement. Okay. Now that we have concluded that
endorsement, we are saying let us not do
endorse anyone.
No, I'm saying if it is about endorsement. No. If you are talking about endorsement, because even those people are talking about endorsing Raila, Uhuru endorsing Raila. So we are talking if it is about endorsement, but we are not looking for endorsement, because we are coming up actually actively, and my party leader has come up actively to defend the people of Kenya. A time when there is no official opposition, a time when people have left. Those who are supposed to go to Canaan are left in the land of Jericho, and they are currently dining and wining with the Pharaoh. He's the only person who has remained with the people of this republic.
Where did he remain? Musalia is pretty much behind Raila Odinga.
No. Who said so?
Only Weta went because he declared and said it will be messy and
noisy.
And casualties are there.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, even as we end, I began a conversation at the top that we have 3 minutes on the clock. I'd like to hear your opinions about this. The fact that there's this faction that's still thing, and the governor of Nairobi County mentioned it yesterday, that President Uhuru is still young and he's going nowhere. Perhaps let me begin with you because Nerima had spoken about it. Meshach.
Yes. I think this is something that is in the mind of some people. And it takes a few, like you said earlier, we have seen Atwoli, we have seen the governor of Nairobi, and a few talking about that. But I would still say the same thing as Nerima said. It shouldn't be on the basis of age. And even when we say young compared to who? Young on what grounds? Because in the same funeral, President Uhuru himself says thank you to Nyong'o's sister who delivered his firstborn son, who is now a man with a wife and a baby. So when we still say young, and this is a grandfather, what young is young then? Is young in Kenya a different young in other parts of the world?
Okay.
So probably if we are saying, those who are saying, let us give him a little more chance, then they should bring another reason, but not because of age.
Because of age. Yes. Omolo.
I think we've been very clear on this, and I think my party leader, His Excellency Musalia Mudavadi, has always said that if it is about creating other positions, then there is no need for us to discuss about referendum. And if you look at the budget, IEBC has been given 4.8 billion Kenyan shillings, which means that the referendum issue is not factored in. We would argue in different ways, but you see, at the end of the day, it will come back to referendum, which we believe that we are not interested in creating other positions, but there are a lot of underlying issues that Kenyans need to discuss that should go through amendments. So it is very clear that we should not be discussing about creating positions of the Prime Minister or position of the President, and also all this system in the name of building cohesiveness and also inclusiveness.
Bringing people together.
So what we need to do is discuss real issues that are affecting Kenyans, real issues that are affecting Kenyans. Even before that, we also need to discuss the money that was allocated to IBC, the 54 billion that was used during the other election. How was it used? Yeah, we need even to audit this before, and also rearrange IBC before we go and discuss this referendum issue.
All right, close the show for us. IBC last week said we have 10 names out of the 97 applications, and we are beginning interviews, I think, 24th to 26th of this month. Nerima, final words, just in a minute.
That's a difficult position to be in. It would be interesting to see the interviews, but I feel that IBC has more problems than the leadership.
Okay.
They need to also review the structure of it, and even being underfunded. And us having a census, whether it will happen or not, is also another question. So we're talking about a census, perhaps a referendum, perhaps an election. It's a busy year, so it will be interesting to see.
All right. Thank you, lady, and thank you, gentlemen, for coming. Omulo Jr., Nerima Wako, and Mesha Kodede, thank you for coming. Hope to see you another day when there is hot politics to talk about. Thank you. And even as I let them go, the last 10 months have been hell on earth for the residents in some parts of Marsabit County in the northern Kenya. A return to the days of old when violence was a way of life, the norm rather than the exception. So far, 17 people have died in the last 1 month. What has sparked the spate of attacks? Why is the violence ongoing despite heavy presence of security in that area? And to what extent are the leaders to blame for what has been happening in that area? Well, Melita Oletenges unpacks the complex factors responsible for the death in the desert.
Serikali kama hao hawana haja na nchi hii, sisi pia tutatoka hapa tukibeba watoto wetu wale, hata tukikufa na njaa na kiu tukufe njiani badala ya kukufa hapa.
Our brother aliuawa kisiasa. Aliuawa kwa sababu ya siasa. Aliuawa kwa sababu yeye ni mtu wa kutafuta amani.
Hakuna ng'ombe mimi niko nao, hakuna mbuzi, hayote yameenda. Mimi bado soma.
Wallahi hata sisi vile tunaamka asubuhi tunakuja hii kazi, tunaogofia haswa nafsi yetu.
Any life lost in Marsabit is a big loss to me. It's a setback to me. It doesn't matter where they come from.
The final rites for 2 women and a child, members of the Gabra community. And the faces of a conflict that has torn through and ruined their homes. On the 24th of May, armed gunmen laid siege to these manyatas in Konso Balanche and left it a dusty, wasted ruin. 3 children aged between 6 to 8 years survived the carnage and are clinging to their fleeting lives at the Kenyatta National Hospital with eye and chest wounds. These are the latest echoes from the cruel lands of Marsabit, where life is marked by death and blood. And these are the faces from the sites of slaughter, where armed men have laid waste to the innocent, the defenseless, and the unlucky.
Walibisha mlango, alafu mama alikataa kufungua, walivunja mlango, wakaingia. Mamangu alimuua. Ninawajua vizuri wale watatu.
Ripples of fear and apprehension washed through the village, and they in turn took up arms and other weapons in readiness for the next attack. But the night just before the attack at Manyata, Konso Balanche, the night of the 23rd of May, 2 men from the Borana community, Jilo Sora and Abdul Jilo, were shot dead in their home while they slept by 2 unknown gunmen. The attackers are said to have accessed the satellite camp from the Isiolo-Moyale highway, which is just a few meters away. Nothing was stolen, even though Jilo Sora had 12,000 shillings in his home. No animals were driven away. The incident happened barely a kilometer from a police security check, but there was no police response that night. Until the following morning, when the flurry of burial activity called its people together, the police and area leaders were there. It's the first time that Galmo Abduba and Elema Jilo have visited the still fresh grave where their husbands lie. Their wounds of loss are still raw. The lumps of disturbed soil show the hyenas had tried to dig them up the night before.
Our previous settlement was Horonder. We moved to Garshaba due to the conflict, and now my husband was killed here. He was around 70 years old. I have now been left with 2 daughters to take care of them by myself.
What saddens me is that my husband was killed close to a police barrier and RDU camp, but it's only the residents who responded. The attackers accomplished their mission and left.
Halake Ali is lucky to be alive. When the gunmen attacked his village, he took cover in the nick of time. He says he recognized the voices of the men shooting at them. They were well known to him and to the 2 slain herders.
We used to keep vigil at night to protect our livestock from wild animals and protect ourselves. I saw the attackers. They used to visit us, buy milk, and we would chew mira together.
These incidents just adding to the accounts of death and violence that have sullied these lands. In the last year, such blood-soaked sites have sprouted in several parts of Marsabit County. 47 people have been killed in the conflict that often starts as something manageable and evolves into something more sinister. There was a brief interlude of peace after the 2017 general election until a chief was killed and the cycle of violence restarted. In December last year, the now Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Protection and former governor for Marsabit County, Ukur Yatani, presided over the launch of a new tribe called the Wayu, initially known as the Wata. A sub-tribe of the Borana community. To many, it was a political move to bring down the numerical strength of the Borana community. On the same day, 2 people were killed, among them the then chief of Dirib Gombo location, George Bika. He was burnt to death. The chief had attended the meeting, which was interpreted as a betrayal among his Borana people.
Our brother aliuawa kisiasa. Aliuawa kwa sababu ya siasa. Aliuawa kwa sababu yeye ni mtu wa kutafuta amani.
The chief's death started a ripple of bloodbaths and attacks, and Marsabit is still counting and burying its dead. A people warily resigned to the peaks and troughs of the conflict, whose causes have mutated from just a battle over land and scarce water and pasture into something more complex. The conflict exposes the fault lines in the battered relationship between the Gabra and the Borana communities. Marsabit County is arguably the largest county in Kenya, occupying a landmass of 66,923 square kilometers with over 14 tribes and a population of 291,166 people. The Gabra and the Borana are the dominant tribes. The conflict hotspots include Dukana, Turbi, Maikona, Forole, Moyale, Sololo, Kargi, and around Marsabit town. But even though the Gabra and Borana share a language, names, and even culture, they are yet to find harmony. In Kubikalo, the village is deserted after armed men raided it in October last year, killing 5 people and made away with 900 goats.
Kubikalo village was once a vibrant village with Borana settlers, livestock, and was full of life, but it now remains a ruin. The villagers moved away as a result of the conflict. Selling fear and sending the villagers away is a method the assailants use to gain such a settlement over time.
Hakuna mali kuishi hapa, kukunywa tu maji akatoroka kama mizi. Hakuna salama, sisi tunakaa hapa saizi. Uangalie masala sasa. Hakuna ng'ombe mimi niko nao, hakuna mbuzi, hayote yameenda. Mimi bado soma. Hauna biashara nyingine, biashara yangu ni mali yangu. Sasa iko na ruku tu peke yake.
It's no different in the Gabra territory in Forole, near the Kenya-Ethiopia border, and where 11 Gabra elders who were attending a peace meeting in Ethiopia were killed by suspected Borana attackers in Ulan area. The residents here say the attack had political motivations in a bid to kick them out of their land.
Serikali kama hao hawana haja na nchi hii, sisi pia tutatoka hapa. Tukibeba watoto wetu wale, hata tukikufa na njaa na kiu, tukufe njiani badala ya kukufa hapa.
Those living at the center of this violence have accused the police of not doing enough to put out the flames of confrontation that have consumed them.
It is vividly sure, beyond any reasonable doubt, that after killing 11, 48 hours after that, we could not see any, security being beefed or being, any seriousness of the Kenyan government.
Wale wamekufa watu 5 hapa. Ngoja polisi akashinda isiku saa 5, sisi gari ya raia kunibebia hapa. Kutoka saa 8 mchana, maiti atoa hapa saa 5 usiku. Amengoja polisi amekashinda.
The truth of the matter is our security officers are doing a very good job. They are doing a lot of patrols. They have made so many arrests. In the recent cases, we have had about 6 arrests in the recent killings. In the past, we have also arrested even politicians for incitement. So I just want to state that, when there is war, you cannot arrest everybody because you also need evidence.
The government, in an effort to improve the fortune of the residents, disarmed the National Police Reservice. The move had mixed reactions. Some say the decision left them more exposed to more attacks, but the government defended the move, saying some of the police reservice could have been involved in the attacks.
We had those allegations against the NPR, and we even witnessed 15 NPRs getting killed and their guns disappearing. So this thing was real. That's why the government made a decision that all NPRs should be disarmed. And I can confirm that they have been disarmed. So what is remaining, after we have mobbed up the illegal weapons, we will do a thorough vetting so that we get people who are credible to be National Police Reservice.
There are a lot of illegal firearms around. And I call upon the security agencies. They have disarmed the KPRs, and that is fine. Actually, I have no problem with that. I support that. Only if they do it fairly across the board, and they get rid of even the illegal firearms, but they must provide adequate security for the people.
Veiled under the deadly attacks are deep and unresolved wrangles over leadership. Former Governor and current CS for Labour Ukur Yatani Agabra does not see eye to eye with the current Governor Muhammad Ali Aborana. The two are the most influential leaders in the county, and some say the battle for the next election, just 3 years away, could be behind the fresh flare-up of violence.
This is conflict over land. It's conflict whereby people are trying to dominate one another. It's conflict over, power. As leaders from that county, we have not invested in peace building. We are waiting for others from outside, to come and save our people.
The problem we have is scheming for 2022. The problem is not actually between Gabra and Borana per se. I don't like this fallacy of generalization where it is always said Gabra and Borana. It is a few greedy politicians with some unscrupulous businessmen who want to make it appear that way, and they rope in and they play the clan card to whip emotions. Say, oh, this community, that community, so that they benefit. This is the major problem.
Let's call it incitement, not really politics. Let's call it incitement. Of course, they are using the old disputes, old issues of disputes and that, but the whole of it has to do with incitement, either by politicians or other people who incite their own communities. But we cannot say per se that this is purely political. It's not a purely political war.
Governor, there are allegations from different quarters that part of the displacement taking place in Marsabit County is just a plan of the wider picture to settle Boranas from southern Ethiopia in Kenya. What can you say about that?
It is lies, diversionary. It is also diversionary that I am claimed to be settling people in Kenya. No, none. I've never done it. I will not do it. Right? And I am telling you that is just a mere allegation. There are those people to show you any foreigner who has been settled anywhere and by who and how. You will not get. These are just allegations.
Caught in the conflict's deadly grip, Fatuma Godana fled her home in fear. She has been forced to abandon her Miraa farm. Her business has since come to a crippling halt.
Saa hii leo hii wakati nakuja hapa mimi silali kwa jumba yangu. Hii mira yangu angefaa kurokota kila mahali kila siku. Sasa videla kila siku, leo ndio ninaomba jirani ninakuja kurokota.
Sisi tunafanya kazi ya makanga, tunafanya kazi hapa. Usawa tunamkanga usiku kama saa 11. Na hiyo masaa ukiamka unasikia mwingine ameuawa saa 12. Hata mimi hata siku mingi sijakuja kazi.
When there are such chaos, when lives are lost, when people are crying, when people are displaced, when the schools are closed, you cannot concentrate on your development agenda. We will leave aside every other thing and first of all ensure that there is peace. For without peace, nothing meaningful can take place.
Huna ruhusa kuweza kutoa roho ya mwenzako. Mwenyezi Mungu aliweka roho, ndio ataweka na atatoa.
Life is slowly slipping away from the once buzzing Marsabit town. Schools in Kubikalo, Forole, and other conflict flashpoints remain closed as fear escalates. It's a conflict that extends to the outline of Kenya's neighbor to the north, Ethiopia, and that at times seems out of the grasp of the local law enforcement. A fight for peace, punctuated by tears and pain. It's a people so close, yet so far away. A community condemned to live at the very margins. Still, they hope that they will someday walk in a new era of peace. Melita Oletenges, NTV.